So Donald Trump had some free speech last week, and that free speech seems to have landed him in some hot water.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street. In that way, he's like Biden. But for building a plant, he can do the greatest plants in the world, right? That's all he cares about. I said, I'd like to see one of your plants recently. I said, I'd like to see, where can we go? Well, we have to travel to Mexico. I said, why Mexico? He said, because that's where the big plants are building. China's building really big plants in Mexico.
Be careful. You keep talking about our freedoms and how we're actually in charge. 30 FBI agents will show up at your door. Let them come. Let them come. I'll tell you what. Since the day I was old enough to understand America, the Constitution, I've always said, I will die for my country. I will die for my freedoms, because America, there's no other country on earth like it. America is the place where everybody has an opportunity. Everybody, even tourist criminals. So let's take a look at what Scarborough has to say about Trump's speech.
He's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in the terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, president, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one more. It's just bullshit. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath. And when he finishes by saying, and that's just going to be the least of it, seriously, these people may be stupid. We're not.
Oh, I beg to differ. Joe Scarborough, you are so stupid. Not only are you stupid, you are a shit stirrer and a gaslighter. And anybody that watches Morning Joe, I am suspect of. I don't think they're smart enough to get a job in a gas station. So let's take a look at what bloodbath, the definition of bloodbath by Merriam-Webster. So it could mean a great slaughter, a notable, fierce, violent, or destructive contest or struggle, or a major economic disaster. That is a bloodbath. The third one is what Trump was talking about. It will be a bloodbath for the auto industry, and that's just the beginning of it. America will be in trouble. He was talking about industries, and he used the term correctly. Here's an interesting thing. Both factcheck.org and PolitiFact actually took Trump's side in this. For the first time ever, I have seen, but they didn't take it easily. I'm not going to let you have you read the whole thing, but basically they said in context, he was talking about the automotive industry.
Tyson Foods fired all of, well, not all, but a big, huge portion of their employees and hired illegal immigrants. All of them that just came over the border, Tyson Foods. So I will not be eating that anymore. What's going to happen is they're all going to be working illegally. They're not going to be paying taxes. We're not going to have any money to pay taxes. We're not going to have jobs, and this whole nation's going to crumble. We're going to become Venezuela.
Communism, that's it. Peter, the professor says it right. Useful idiots. Karl Marx. 100%. They are useful idiots. So here's some foreign news.
Yet again, quite disappointed that when you watch Trump's speech and he uses the word bloodbath, to me it's very clear he's talking about an economic bloodbath. And it's a strident term, yes, but it's not incitement to violence. I can tell that. I'm no idiot. I think most people aren't idiots. Similarly, I think he sort of made a mention of a crime that was committed by an illegal migrant to the country and called him an animal or something to that end, of which now, that means he's clearly labelling all people who cross the border animals. And it just, every single media outlet seems to have doubled down on the use of language rather than talking about the interesting facts of the story.
Now, Donald Trump makes clear that he was talking about an economic bloodbath relating to effectively the automotive industry. He was saying, I think there should be 100% tariffs on cars that are being imported to the US. So he was saying, if you vote for me, great news. If not, then the automotive sector will be decimated and there'll be this economic bloodbath. But do we really not expect our politicians to understand the impact of their words, particularly in the context of January 6th?
Do we not expect our journalists to also understand the impact of words and actually talk about the story and talk about whether this is a good policy, instead of every single broadcaster, other than us, of course, going up in arms and screeching about, oh, he said bloodbath, he's a threat to stability. I mean, actually, to me, it's the irresponsibility of journalists who turn this into the big stirring pot.
What is this about? This is not, maybe not even the beginning. Certainly, the start, shall we say, of the Democrats' campaign, and that campaign. Biden's campaign will be, my opponent is a lunatic. My opponent did January the 6th. Watch out, he'll do it again.
I suspect that Joe Biden will effectively sort of present Donald Trump as somebody who's deranged, potentially sort of untrustworthy. Obviously, he did do the job as US president for 4 years, but Joe Biden really set out on a mission to make politics boring again. And people will decide whether or not that's something that they ultimately prefer or not.
He hasn't been boring. He's been very entertaining.
I think
He's been unusual.